Torre. I am 24 years old. I'm a certified personal trainer. I do own the PeachLab here in downtown Modesto. A lot of you know a little glimpse about myself from Instagram. I do have my page is called the PeachLab _. I'm here to empower as many women as I can and meet as many women as I can because my purpose in life is to be able to have everybody feel good about themselves. This is my first podcast ever. We're here actually on a hallway. We're like, well, you know what? It's okay. We don't gotta keep it that professional because this is my first one, and I'm gonna learn from it. And what I really, truly, really am doing this about is for you guys to see what I'm about, what others are about, and hopefully you guys could take a little about everyone's life story, how they made it in life and what their struggles were, because we're not all perfect. None of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm actually scared of talking to people. I was always scared of talking to people. This is my first time ever recording myself like this. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys know that I barely started speaking up. I was selfish, but I'm doing this for you guys, and I want to make sure you guys know that it's gonna be okay, and I'm here for you guys, and we're all here for you guys. Everyone that I bring here to talk to all you all, it's because we are all in this together. And here I have Alex. You could follow him on Instagram, Alex_homeloans, and he's gonna talk about his life story and what he has gone through to get where he's at the moment.
Yeah, so thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Like you said, we were kind of scrambling to find we were supposed to be in an office, but we couldn't find the keys. We couldn't get in the door, and so here we are sitting in the middle of the hallway. It might be a little bit echoey. So, like I said, I told Cecilia that I want to help her elevate herself because I see a lot of potential in you, and I just know that eventually in the next if it's not in the next few months, you're gonna blow up. And I want you to know that, and I want you to know that I want to help. I'm on my own little business venture, and so we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. And
yes, we do a lot. He's gonna talk about his childhood right now. I want to know how you were back in the day, what your struggles were, how badass you were as a child.
Okay, so just to introduce myself, my name is Alejandro Martinez. I'm 26. My childhood was fun, man. I was lucky enough to grow up in Planada, California, which is a really small town. You see somebody, you know who they are because it's such a small town. You know exactly what everybody's doing. You know who lives where. You know whose mom is who, and so through that, I got my small town personality. I was raised by awesome parents who came over from Mexico. They're from Guanajuato. Growing up as a kid, I was always interested in sports, right? And I'm sure that you.
Oh yes, all my life.
I'm pretty sure
I can relate.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you can relate because growing up, I started playing baseball when I was super little. I think that was the first thing I was allowed to play, maybe 6 or 7. Started playing baseball, and then from there, I always was interested in sports. Always interested in sports. Whenever I got to elementary. I was always a chubby kid, so
I was too. That I had a point where yes.
Yeah, so growing up, I was always a chubby kid, and it's funny because now being where we are, working with these guys and Andy and everybody, it's all about fitness and getting in shape, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, it's growing up, I had just a normal childhood. I was always kind of like a desmadroso, you heard that term, I was always like a wrecking ball, doing a whole bunch of dumb stuff and, having fun as a kid, but back in the day it was a little bit different than it is now.
Oh yes.
Back in the day you were able to run around your neighborhood, play hide and seek with 15 people and nobody would trip. These days you probably do it and they're like, who's on my block and why are they doing it,
Or you can't even get out of your house without your mom being like, get inside the house.
Yeah, nowadays it's a lot different than it was back then. But yeah, I had a normal childhood, grew up with a lot of cool people. I've always had the same group of friends, and even now to this day I still have the same group of friends. So that's kind of something that I cherish and hold on to dearly because friendship is everything, right?
Oh, it is.
And that's why I'm so excited about this is because just meeting new people and going on to these little business ventures that we're going on, and hopefully helping as many people along the way that we can. And so hopefully some of these people that are listening to this get something out of it just through this conversation. So just to finish my point about my childhood, normal childhood, nothing crazy. I was raised by solid parents, and that's something that I'm so blessed to have. Is like I always came from. I always thank my parents so much because it could have gone differently, right? Everybody comes from a different background, and some people grew up with one parent, some people grew up with two parents, some people grew up with no parents. Some people grew up with their grandparents or their tia or their tío or their brother taking care of them. So I was fortunate enough to come from a solid home, which I think set the foundation for me, like being who I am. And so through that, I was able to acquire all these tools, like middle school. Played a little bit of sports, but there wasn't much because our town was small. Baseball, I didn't make the team my 6th grade year, so that was like, that was like a roadblock for me growing up, because whenever you're not good enough for something, it messes with your ego.
Yes, it does. Like,
do you have any experiences like that where you like maybe you weren't good enough, or you were like you didn't?
Oh no, yes, I did. I tried out for the basketball team back in middle school, but it was more like I didn't have the grades. It's so embarrassing. Yeah. I didn't have the grades to play in middle school. I used to go to Heart Ransom, and I didn't even want to tell my mom. I'm like, oh man, it's embarrassing, like, oh, you need to bring your grades up. Like, oh shoot, like that wasn't when that happened. From there on, my grades should shoot up. I started getting good grades. I was like I can't believe I can't have anything keep me away from moving forward. And I was like, damn, I can't believe
From that point forward, you're not gonna do that shit again.
No, I was like, nope, I did good after that.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that I still remember the teacher's name. Mr. Thornton, if you're out there, you're watching this. He was like a 6th grade literature teacher, and we always would bump heads because I was like the class clown, right? Like I was always the person that was out of my seat, messing around with my buddies, trying to mess around in class instead of paying attention. And that year, all my buddies made the team. I didn't make it, and I was at the time I was a chubby kid. I acquired my nickname, which is Torta, which is what a torta is.
Yeah.
It's like a Mexican sandwich, so that tells you about what I look like. And so I developed, got to the 8th grade, started getting girlfriends and stuff like that. When I got to high school, always an athlete. Like I said, always an athlete. That was my thing from the year that I was a freshman to the year that I graduated. I don't like to brag about myself, but I was always pretty good at what I did. Football was my main focus. And through sports, you have so many awesome coaches. And that's another thing too, is I was lucky enough to have coaches in my life who's it's like a second parent, right? Because you're with them so often, and you're with them, and they're instilling character in you, they're instilling morals, and they're telling you how to be a young man. And then, so like I said, I have just pure dumb luck. I've been lucky enough to have all these things happen to me, and for whatever reason, growing up with solid parents, growing up in a small town, going to a small school, having solid coaches that have set the foundation for me. High school, sports all my life. I wasn't the best student because, like I said, even in high school, I was still fucking around. I wasn't focused on the actual school. I just wanted to do enough so I could have a good grade so I could play sports, like you said. I didn't care about getting A's or B's. I just wanted to not have less than a 2.0 because that would mean I was ineligible. That would mean that I was ineligible. So just maintaining that 2.0. But through those years is where I kind of started, when I started maturing and started to become a young man at 16, 17, 18 years old. You're kind of forced to what do you want to do with your life, right? So at the time, sports was my thing for whatever reason. I always wanted to be like a personal trainer or a strength and conditioning coach. And so fitness was that was kind of the direction that I was going, but I didn't know because you're 18, right? When you're in high school, you're 18, you're kind of forced to choose a career, and whether you think you know or you don't, you're forced to do it. And and so when I graduated high school, I focused on. No, you're good. Go ahead. When I graduated high school, I decided that I was going to go to Fresno State just because it was close to home. I declared as a strength, a kinesiology major. So kinesiology's got all these different branches, and at first, like I said, people would ask me like, "What do you want to do?" Like, "Oh, I want to be a strength and conditioning coach." Like my thought was, hopefully, when I get older or I get a job, I can be working for like a big college or a big professional team or big sports that's gonna help me. Like I'm gonna help the players get stronger and faster and be good athletes. But once I started doing the school, I quickly realized like it was way too much science for me. Like I hate science. I don't know how
Oh
you.
yeah, no, yeah, I don't like science.
I don't know how you.
Oh man.
I don't know how you were with academics, but for me, like the chemistries and the biologies and
I
like
get you on that. I was trying to. I went to Stan State to be a nurse.
yeah.
I took the first nursing biology science class. That year I dropped out. I was like, there's nothing else I want to do here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel you because as a freshman, like you know how there was like entry level classes like general education
Yeah.
stuff, like you can enter college without having a major,
Mhm.
and then you pretty much knock out all of your general education classes. While the general education biology class, like level 1 freshman stuff, I saved it until like I was a senior because I never wanted to take that classes. I just hated it for whatever reason. So like when I so talking about the time like 2011 I started. I actually moved out to Fresno, lived over there for a year with my buddies, and you know wasn't focused on school because we were just hanging around doing dumb stuff, and it was our first year like moving out of our parents' house. So of course, like for us, it was like we're finally free, right? So we were just out there doing a bunch of dumb shit and not focusing on school. And I actually had the privilege to, like I said, I don't want to brag about myself, but I was pretty good at football. So I always knew within myself that I had the ability to like play next level. It's just that where I came from, like we didn't get a lot of scouts because we were like so low level, like D6 football, right? So not a lot of scouts go watch those people. And so when I graduated, I always wanted to like play, right? But I didn't have the support or whatever I needed from, you know, even not so much from my coaches because we don't get a lot of eyeballs at small schools like that. Like the big schools, like around here, like Enox and Modesto High and like those big schools, those are the ones that get the most recruiters because those are the ones that generally have the best athletes. So when I graduated and I went to Fresno State the first year, like I had like kind of done a little bit of research about when tryouts were, or like when I could go try out, and I actually tried out. So I was a tight end and I was a defensive end, and back then I was only like 205 pounds soaking wet, like coming out of high school. And so to try out for a defensive line, I was gonna try out for a tight end, but they had just got a new coach. Long story short, they liked me, and I had the privilege of playing on the spring team, which means like you know like there's a season and then like off season there's a spring team. So I got to play with the people like Derek Carr, who plays for the Oakland Raiders, he's a quarterback. I got to play with wide receiver Devontae Adams, who plays for the Green Bay Packers. A lot of cool names like that. But what ended up happening was just I was too small. Like at the time, the way that they were going, I couldn't hang with the big boys because the position that I was playing, I was like too small. I needed to put on so much weight, but you know, the point is, I knew within myself that I had the ability to do it, and nobody could tell me not. You know, nobody could tell me otherwise because I already had my mindset that I was going to go and do it, and I did it. You know, and I accomplished that, and so forever I will hold on to that. But just moving forward, 2012, moved back so I could be with my now fiance Monica. 2013, we had our first kid, and I was young at the time. I was only like 19 years old. So just being a young adult,
I can relate. I was 19 too.
Yeah. Not knowing where life was gonna take me, and I was still in school, and not knowing like the uncertainty of like, am I gonna be able to finish school? Am I not? Am I gonna have to drop out? Luckily for me, we've had tons of support. Like I was telling you before we started recording, like I can call my mom, I can call her mom, I can call my cousin, I can call my sister. Like I've been so lucky just to have the freedom to like continue forward. Yeah, and so after we had our kid, it changed everything because you know you can relate.
Yes, I can
right?
relate.
You're a parent. Like let me ask you this: what from the time that before you became a mother, and then when you birthed your child, like what switched there?
I always worked so much, so I would always have like at least 2 jobs. And if I wanted to go to the gym, I'm gonna go to the gym. If I wanted to take a nap, I could take a nap. Anything I want to do, I was able to do it. Once I had my kid, I became a single mother right away. So all my time was to him. I did not really get sleep. Like, you know, when you're the firstborn, you get like 3 hours a day. I was not able to work as much. I had a part-time job. I dropped out of college. I was not doing much for myself because my focus was just my child. He was a newborn baby, and for a while I did not do anything for myself. Like, it was hard to do anything for myself because all I thought I was like, oh man, I don't want to be away from him. Where am I gonna leave him? He's just a newborn baby. But I did have support from my aunt and my mom. But the thing is that they also worked.
Yeah.
So I was only able to work 4 hours a day, and I really felt like I was failing in life because I knew I could do more, but I didn't.
You didn't have the means to do it.
Yes, and I didn't know how to go about it because I felt like selfish if I left my child for longer than 4 hours or 5 hours. It was like, no, I gotta be with him. He needs me more. So yes, it was a very difficult time till like a year ago. I started
hustling. So how did you make from the time that you had your kid to, like you said, about a year ago? How did you like get by? Like, did you hustle? Did you work? Like, you know, because you're a hustler. To me, you're like not a hustler like that, but you're a go doer. You know, and I've only known you for like 2 or 3 weeks, and to me, like you're on it, and you're gonna blow up. Trust me, guys, she's gonna blow up.
So how it happened was like I was with my ex-boyfriend, and he helped me a lot with my son, actually, like a lot. And his mom let me borrow her garage. She's like, hey, you could do it here, because at first I was training people at the gym, you know, like people like to work out with me at the gym. There was nothing like big, you know. And then they're like, my friend Kate was like, hey girl, you know, I love working out with you. You should just start charging people. Why don't you do this? Like, I come here because of you, you know, like I love the way you motivate me, you push me. I get a bomb ass workout. So then I got my first client, Brenda. And
Brenda, if you're out there.
I love you. Well, I was training, and then I started training her at Fit Republic, and there's this trainer named Jerry. He found out, I know he found out, and told like the front desk, like, hey, you know, that girl, you know, she needs to go. They kicked me out of that gym, and I literally, like, I was like, damn, like, it really hurt me, and I knew, like, because it hurt me, I was like, damn, this is for me. Like, I know I want this bad, because he kicked me out, and I know I could do it. Like, that actually gave me the motivation. Getting kicked out from that gym, I was like, oh my God, like, I have to do something about this now. I went and joined Planet Fitness. I got 2 other clients. So people wouldn't catch me. I would go from one gym, train one person there at 5 in the morning. Then I would go at 7 in the morning to a different Planet Fitness, and at 9 in the morning to a different Planet Fitness, and I would work out with every single one of them. And I was still waitressing. And then I told my dad, I'm like, man, like, I'm so tired. I can't do this. Like, I can't be working out with all of them. Like, I'm getting tired. Like, working out 3 times a day. Like,
so you're
waking up early and doing both jobs.
So not only are you training them, you're also like doing the workout.
Yes, because I didn't want to get caught.
Yeah, you don't want to look like a trainer.
And I loved it so much. I wanted to help them so much that then my dad was like, look, he never really gave me money, like sent money over, like, because he lives in Mexico. But when I would go over there, he would take care of me, you know. And this is the first time he was like, look, I'm gonna give you money. I did not believe him. I was like, no, but I didn't care for his money, you know.
Yeah.
But he's like, you know what? He told me, my parents once believed in me, and they gave me money, so I'm gonna do the same for you because I believe in you. And awesome. He gave me $2,000, and then not even my aunt from Mexico. That he gave it to my aunt from Mexico to give it to my mom. My aunt was against it. My mom was against it. My mom was like, no, there's no way I'm gonna give it to her. She's just gonna spend it.
She's gonna blow it.
Yeah, and I told my mom, you know what? You're right. Don't give it to me. Buy me the stuff.
Yeah.
So I searched through her phone. I was like, okay, I need like dumbbell sets. I need like some bands. And that's how I started. And then my ex-boyfriend was like, you could do it in my mom's garage.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I thanked her for it. Oh my God. And so I did it in the garage, and I started growing to the point where like the garage connected to the backyard. So I set up the backyard with turf and everything too. Like I had a whole setup with cable machines, dumbbell sets, kettlebell sets, squat rack, everything. Like I had it all. And little by little I started growing. And one day I was like, I'm tired of working 2 jobs, because the girls would be waiting for me outside at night, waiting for me to get on my night job, because I trained in the morning. Then when I got out of Black Bear, they would wait for me at 9 p.m. at night. They'll still be waiting for me to train them. I was like, man, they really want me to train them, and they're willing to wait for me outside.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna quit my job to focus on them. So one day, the next day,
How old were you at this time?
I was 23.
Oh wow.
I've only been doing this for a year. So the next day I wake up and I'm like, I told my little cousin and my son was in the car. We were driving somewhere, and then we were by Blackberry where my old job. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna drive to Blackberry, you'll see, and I'm gonna quit. Yeah. So I drive to my work. I literally looked for a piece of paper because I was not even I didn't even know I was gonna quit when I woke up that day actually. Yeah. I in paper and I write my 2-week notice, make it really professional as I can, but last minute. I walk in there, look at my boss, I'm like, thank you for all you did for me, and I really appreciate you guys for giving me this job, but this is my 2-week notice, I'm gonna follow my dreams.
I'm leaving.
I'm leaving, I'm leaving. They're all confused, I'm sorry, I'm leaving. And then my neighbor, my ex-boyfriend's mom's neighbor, this old man, I started growing, I had 30 clients in that garage. It would be 100 degrees and girls would still come to train.
So you'd have cars parked in the street.
Yes. And my neighbor, he called the cops on me. And then I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? Get kicked out from a gym, and I'm gonna get kicked out from this garage. Then he went and told the city, and I got a letter mailed to me. And I was like, you know what, God? You're right. It's time for me to get my own spot. I saw it as a positive thing. I didn't even see it as a negative. I was like, you know what? This is exciting. I'm gonna get in my own spot now. So Kate, the girl that told me to start training people, she went and looked for my own spot.
Oh, wow.
She found the spot, and now I'm there, and I started there in September. So I started personal training in January, then in September I already had my own spot, which I'm there right now, and now I'm actually looking for a gym. I don't want it to look like a warehouse. I want to open up gyms. This first one I'm gonna do is just for women to empower them, because everything I've done is for them. But I do want to have the rest be co-ed, because I want to help not just women, everyone. But I want that gym to be a woman. Why? Because many women don't feel confident working out around men, and I want to make sure I have that for them. That's what I owe them. I owe them that.
You want to provide them the environment to feel comfortable to work out,
Always.
not to feel like they're being watched or anything like that.
Yes, because you know how gyms are.
Yeah.
I have guys follow me around when I work out at the gym.
Yeah.
It feels uncomfortable.
That's so awesome though, because to touch on a few of your points, you getting kicked out it goes back to what we were talking about, not making that sixth grade team, not making the basketball team that you didn't make. It's in our lives we come across roadblocks, and it's all about how we overcome those. Yes. Yeah, because you could have easily backed out when you had your son, and you could have easily been nah, like I said, for me, I was fortunate enough to continue forward with my education and go and get my degree, because most Latinos, like me and you, we're kind of living like our parents, right? We want to make our parents proud. So we go and we continue to be educated. Why? Because they never had those opportunities, right? They didn't have the opportunity. My parents, they only had the opportunity to get to the 3rd, 4th grade. Why? Because in Mexico, they needed to work. They needed to be in chinga, right? Otherwise, there was no money coming in for the family, so they needed to be out on the farms, helping with the plotting the land and stuff like that. So for me, I want to take advantage of any opportunity that I get. And right now, we have a great opportunity on our hands, both of us, I feel like. And this is us trying to make the best of it, and this is us just trying to create. And during these times where people are there's a lot of negativity, like you said. You could have easily focused on the negative, but you chose to focus on the positive. And I think that's what this is all about. Hopefully, something good comes of this whole quarantine thing, and as a race and as humans and as a country, we learn something from it. And because right now a lot of shit's been taken away from us, right?
Yeah.
Because before, I'll get into my current story in a little bit, but everybody wants to be home, right? Before all this shit happened, nobody wants to go to work, everybody wants to be home, and now it's everything's been turned upside down. Now you have to be home, right? Like I said, right now we're for me, this is essential. I don't give a fuck about what anybody says. This is essential. We need to be having these conversations. We need to be out here hustling, because we're getting into the self-employed, world. If we're not working, we're not making money, right? I'm fortunate, like I said, I'll get into that in a little bit, but I'm fortunate enough to where I'm still making, like I'm still getting paid through my employer because I'm a teacher, I'm a PE teacher. And yeah, so for us, it's like we gotta be out here hustling and we gotta be out here making content and having these conversations with each other, like getting to know each other. Because at the end of the day, we're gonna be business partners. We're gonna be like elevating our own, each other's businesses, and that's awesome. Yeah, so hopefully whoever's listening can get something out of it, and I'm sure everybody can relate. Everybody has their own little versions of
struggles.
of us like not making a team or getting kicked out of the apartment or the gym. Let me tell you a funny story about me when I was in college. I've always been a hustler myself. I've always had jobs. Like I've always been an outgoing personality. So I just love talking to people, and that's just gotten me far because you talk to somebody, you create an opportunity. If you're just kind of shy and you put your head down and you're walking past somebody, like maybe you don't meet somebody that you should have met, which will give you an opportunity, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. So when I was in college, 18, out of high school, right? I was always like that person that I got my license got my permit at 15 and a half. I got my license at 16 because I wanted to be in chinga. Like I wanted to be able to drive myself to places in my girlfriend's house. I didn't want to have to have somebody drive me around, right? So I'm always been a doer. So when I was younger, my parents used to own a restaurant back in Planada. Like I said, back at the time, 13, 14, 15, I didn't have that mindset of like helping them. I just wanted to like be out doing my own dumb shit. Now being where I am, looking back, like damn, I wish I would have had this knowledge so I could have helped them like grow. And so I always worked there. I had like family who owns like a big trucking business, so I was always able to work for them. I always had my little jobs here, so my parents wouldn't have to give me like a bunch of money, like you were saying. I didn't want to rely on them. I'm not gonna say that they didn't, because they did. Like they helped me out. I mean, they bought me a lot of stuff. They supported me. They actually paid for my rent to be at college like my first year, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move back. But while I was over there, my first job as like living on my own was a personal trainer. And I got hired I got like interviewed at an In Shape. But like I said, now knowing what I know, I see everything that I did wrong back then, right? Because I'm the person at the gym, like watching other people working out. It's the same thing, it's a business. You have clients walking in, and now it's up to you to go approach them and say, hey, like I see, I noticed your form is off a little bit. Like, let me show you how to do a different, let me show you how to do a correct way of, doing a tricep dip or doing a push-up or doing a bench press. And through that, hopefully you get clients. Well, me, I was always in chinga. Like I said, I wasn't making any money because it was based on commission, and I didn't have the knowledge to like get clients. And I was going to school for kinesiology, so for me, I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I'm a personal trainer. Like, what the fuck? Like,
It felt good.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a personal trainer. Like, I started to try to get in shape myself, so that way I can like at least look the part. Yeah. So I think that's kind of like where it really started for me, is like going from always being that chubby kid to like, okay, now you got to get in shape, right? And because in high school I always played sports, naturally I was always kind of in shape, but I was never worried about my fitness, right? So I think that's kind of where the seed was planted in me, like, okay, now you got to start like thinking about looking good. But I never got any clients. I probably did it for maybe 3 months, and I was like, fuck man, I'm not making any money. Like, what am I just doing here? Like, I'm just kind of wasting my time. But I didn't have the knowledge to like understand that I needed to go and do it, right? And so I left. I was a personal trainer, but I never trained anybody. I tried, like I talked to people and I did like demo lessons, and like I give like for the free sample at all the personal trainers, like, hey, let me just give you a free workout, right? Like I did that, but I never had like my first official client. So I left that job. I got another job for the apartment complex that I was working at, that I was living at. It was super cool because, like I said, I was able to find a bunch of loopholes and like be lazy and clock in from my apartment room and do all that stuff. But no, yeah, I just think it's funny that both of our lives are kind of like I said, a lot of people have a lot in common. It's just about talking to people. That's why when you're out and about and you talk to somebody, right away you find out like, oh, so-and-so, oh, so-and-so. Like it's a small world once you start talking to people. And so that's your story interests me, and I love for you to share a little bit more about yourself. So talk to me about now. Like, okay, now you've gone from getting kicked out of the gym because of haters, like motherfucking haters, like personal trainers. They see, okay, like I said, they see you being productive. They see you have a client. You're not even a certified personal trainer. Why is this person in my gym working out other people? We have to get her out, right? when in reality they could have approached you and been like, hey, like join our team, like help us grow, right? But they don't think like that. They're like haters, like.
Or that's being a positional leader. I'm reading this book, How Successful People Lead, and it comes that comes up in the book where some people are just positional leaders, where like they just do their part, and if they feel intimidated by someone else, they'll try to do their best for them to quit, or they're trying to kick them out. Yes, so that's why a lot of businesses go down, because they don't have their people invest on themselves, and that's very, very important. Like that's what I tell my girls, like it's not just about the body, like you gotta get this strong, it's all about here. If this is strong, this is easy.
It's
like,
gonna come.
Yeah, this is easy. Like once I started getting this strong, this came easy. Like I didn't even have to try. But this is the hard part. Like you have to read every single day. I read, like I try to read every day, like sometimes twice, sometimes in the morning and at night. Yeah, and it's an everyday thing. It's not like a Monday and then Wednesday and Friday thing, or like 3 times a day. No. I wake up, first thing I do is open the book and read. I wake up at 6:30 in the morning. My mind like just it's up. I don't even have to put an alarm anymore. 6:30 in the morning, I read, then I pray, because honestly, to have peace in mind, you have to pray. You have to read about God.
You have to have some sort of
I read about God. Yes, I read about like at least like it's a devotion men's book, but I really love it, and it's just at least a paragraph. Then I'll thank God, for blessing me for another day and waking up my family as well, for my health. And then I take a shower, always shower in the morning, shower at night, and then I'll go hit the gym early in the morning, like try to knock everything down like 30 minutes, so I can be at the gym by 7:10. I have my own gym, so I just go to my own gym. Then be done by 8:15 from my workout. Then I go work on my social media, my content, replying. I get like hundreds of messages a day about how I inspire others, and I live for those. Like I live for them, and I go off on them, like trying to get to them. I have my inspiring group chat, where I go on there and make sure I motivate them get them ready for the day. Then I make sure I let everybody know I'm going live at 7 p.m. With my workout, and then after that I plan things out. So it's either a photo shoot to help a business out with gym apparel, or a photo shoot for more of my content, or I go on a business call on Zoom to help another business out. And then I eat my breakfast. I always have my breakfast. I eat healthy. The reason I eat healthy is not to look good. No. The main reason I eat healthy, it's for my energy levels. I have to be awake all day. Like I cannot be tired. There's no way. I don't want to be tired. So everything I do, it's so nothing messes up here. I don't do nothing that's gonna affect here. No. Everything that was affecting me, I quit a long time ago. And then after that, I go home, and since I hit the gym, I shower 3 times a day, actually. Because now after that, I go home and shower, because I'm like, okay, I gotta get ready for the day, whatever I'm about to do right now. And then after my shower, I go back and work on my projects, because I'm also working on other things that I will let you guys would just see.
Just wait.
You guys just wait. I'm working on a lot of things, It's like work 20 hours, sleep 4 hours kind of thing. It's been like that, and I love it. And I work on my projects that I'm working on. Then after that, I will have lunch and work again. And I try to have all my food there at the office, because I don't want to leave. I don't even want to leave. And then after that, I go live at 7 p.m. on my personal account, Cecilia Exo de la Torre. I go live every day at 7 p.m. And then, so I work out with the girls. I motivate them for the day, like home workouts, like, because I want to make sure they're consistent still, no matter where they're at. And not just that, to know that I'm there for them. And then after that, I go back working. I work again more, because I have to keep it going. Like it's an everyday thing. And then after that, I go home. I shower first. I'm not trying to.
Third shower.
I'm not trying to lay on my bed like all dirty. But all these things I do for myself every single day, every day, will bring out my purpose in life. Like the main things that make me me. But you have to do all these things. And then after I shower, I read. my leadership book because you need to work on this every day to be able to lead others. And another book I'm reading, it says you have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Because yes, you're learning every day, but then as the years go by, you forget things, you unlearn things,
for sure.
and guess what? You go back and learn them again. So for me to be able to motivate others and know how to talk to other people, because everybody is different. You're not the same. Andy's not the same, or my best friend's not the same. Everyone's different. You just have to know how to get along with others and how you're able to make them feel better about themselves, knowing how their personality is.
Yeah.
So it's very important for me to read, and then you could relate to a lot. Everything I read, I'm like, oh my god, I could relate to this. Like, it's amazing. Like, you have to do things in life that's gonna make you feel happy about yourself. Instead of watching TV, I don't watch TV. I don't know what TV is. Like, I don't like the TV. The TV.
You don't have time for that.
I don't own a TV. I don't like TV. Like, I don't want to hear the news. If I want to hear the news of what's going on live, like in the world, then while I'm driving to the gym in the morning, YouTube's on. I'm listening to Grant Cardone. Like, okay, what's going on? How to better myself when I buy my first property soon. Like, okay, like how am I gonna go about it? Or Patrick Bet David, how to become a better entrepreneur. Like, I'm learning. Like, I want to stay learning. Like, I'm eager to learn. Like, I want to learn everything. That's the reason I talk to everybody. I walk into Best Buy. You best believe every single person I talk to, I'm gonna know something about them. I'm gonna let them know about the PeachLab. I'm gonna let them know about my group chat, and I have a list of girls I wrote down that wanna join my group chat because my phone broke. But I'll do anything to let anybody know that, like, oh, you could join this and that I can help you, make you feel better about yourself. And it's crazy, like, I meet all these people, and later on in life, somehow I need a photographer or someone to record, and like, oh my god, like, I already met him at Best Buy. And there's this guy that was recording my workout videos, Rob, and I'm like, oh my god, like, I just met him. So, like, anywhere I go, I talk to people. You have to be social, you have to be happy, you have to smile more. Like, stop being so, like, quiet, selfish. Like, if you're more open, like, you'll feel much more happier. Like, I love talking to everybody.
I think that's what sets you apart from a lot of people. I think this is kind of taking us into the now, because like I said, I've talked a little bit about my past and how I went to school, and I ended up graduating from Fresno State to become a PE teacher, which is what I currently do. And I'm leaving, like you said, like, you're leaving was it Blackbird Diner?
I left Blackbird Diner, yeah.
Like, I'm leaving teaching, where I went to school to get my degree, to go into this entrepreneurship that we're, like, both gonna be on the ride, hopefully together. And it all started with this Andy cat. And it's just to tell a quick story, and, like, because everything that you were saying, I relate to, because that's, like, it's so awesome to me that you're so young at the age of, I'm not much older than you, I'm only 2 years older than you, but still, like, not a lot of people at this age already have, like, their shit figured out, right? It takes people a lot longer, to 30s or 40s of just being on that, like, employee, like, you're an employee all your life, to retire by 55, like, fuck that, right? So we already have that switch that's been off in our brain, but that's just because, like you're saying, we've been into that, like, self-development, right? Like, we've been
broke.
And broke college student,
Yeah, I started from the bottom. My mom's always been a field worker, and guess what my first job was? At 10 years old, picking chairs, and I did that for 5 years because I already wanted to work. So I know.
I worked in the field myself. Like I said, I worked many jobs, but finally I became, I had, like, work, like I said, I had a couple good jobs. Before I was in teaching, I worked for probation. So everything that I did, I, like, grabbed a little bit of knowledge, like, it just, like I said, it just, from the fields, learned about getting up fucking 4 in the morning to be at the field by 5. You know what I mean? Like, everything that I did, like, I took a little bit from it. And the last one that I did was probation, and, like, from there I got, like, my command presence. Like, in law enforcement they call it, like, command presence. You have to have, like, this presence of just, like, being around. Like, like, when you have a command presence, think about, like, a CHP on the freeway, right? Like, the CHP on the freeway, they're, like, that's command presence. That's them being there, they're not gonna pull everybody over, but everybody that passes by is gonna see that CHP there. And in doing so, they're gonna start slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. And what is the CHP gonna do? He's gonna pull over the motherfucker that's going the fastest, right? And then that's gonna make an example out of them, right? People are gonna see that, people are gonna like slow down. And then next time you pass by there, you're gonna, next time you pass by there, you're gonna slow down. Why? Because that cop was there, right? So the same thing that I have that, like I acquired that skill set of command presence from probation. I used it in teaching, and then I met Andy. And like that's where this whole shit is like changing. And I'll just tell a quick story about, you know, that, because to me it's like, it's been the most impactful thing that's, you know, there's a lot of impactful shit that's happened in my life, and this is like one of them for sure. Like I cannot be sitting in this chair where I'm at today if it wasn't for Andy. And if for those of you guys that don't know Andy, you'll probably get to know him soon. Andy's fucking awesome, man. Like, it all started with our refinance. So we purchased our home in 2017. Monica and I were young. We're 24, I think, at the time. You know, 2-3 years ago.
Wow.
We bought our house 24, and before that, like I said, we have 2 kids, but at the time we only had our older daughter, Adeline, who was like 4 or 5 at the time. We purchased our first home. You know, we were able to like save up, and I was always like the go and doer. So she's more conservative. Like, you know, I don't know if it's just like a man-woman thing, but she's always like, no, like let's not be risky. Like let's just, you know. Yeah. And me, I was like, nah, fuck that. Like let's.
I'm like that too, though. I'm like, yeah. Fuck it, let's go. Fuck like it. That's not been.
Yeah, let's commit. I said they were building these new like houses over there by where I live, and I'm like, you know, let's just go look. So we looked, we saw the little lot, and like it's funny because I have all the pictures from like the first day that we pulled up, like maybe we could buy this house. Like I took pictures. Like my point is, like, I kind of manifested it in my head, and that's what all this shit is about. It's just manifesting your own future, because our fucking brains are so powerful, like you're saying, as you. And I'm learning about all these, like you're saying, you mentioned Grant Cardone, you mentioned Patrick McDavid, like another one that I have is Danny Morale. Like they all talk about. And it's just about like continuing to educate yourself. They all talk about the same shit, and that's just like your brain. This like you said, you refer to it as this, your mind. Like you have the power in your mind to create your own existence, right? Yeah. And to go back to my point is, when we purchased our home, I fucking committed. You know, I was like, fuck it, let's commit. We'll worry about the rest later. So we were able to save up enough money, and we got like a good program, first time home buyers. Anyway. A few months ago, we started getting letters in our mailbox, like about refinancing. Like, hey, you know, like I knew a little bit about like mortgages, but I didn't know much. But I knew more than the average person just because of my personality. Like I wanted to look into it. Yeah. I wanted to know that we were gonna have a good deal before we went and bought a $250,000 fucking thing. And so I knew what like the basic, you know, mortgage and interest rate and, you know, taxes and home insurance and like primary mortgage insurance. I knew what that was. So for those of you guys that don't know, whenever you don't put enough money down as a first-time home buyer, the bank sees you as a liability. So in order to protect themselves from that, they put what's called a primary mortgage insurance on your loan. That's them protecting yourself, because at such a young age, we didn't have enough money to put down, which means that we're a liability. We could default on our loan. We could go, you know, we could maybe not afford it, especially with everything that happened in 08. So we started getting letters in the mail about refinancing and like, hey, it's time for you to drop your primary mortgage insurance, because it adds like depending on what the loan amount is, it adds like $100, $200 to your loan. So if you have a payment of $1,900, your payment could be $1,700, right? Mm-hmm. And like I said, we both have good jobs now we both, you know, I'm a teacher, she's a probation officer, and so we have like good income. Luckily for us, we have 2 incomes. Like a lot of Americans live off of 1 income. And so we were able to afford it, but still, like, we needed to refinance because we can drop our payment. Who doesn't want to drop their payment, right? Mm-hmm. And so we started getting letters in the mail from like different title companies, and like, hey, we can help you, we can get you this rate. Hey, we can help you, we can get you this rate. And me, being like the person that I am, I'm like, hey, let's start making some moves. Let's start like finding out which one of these motherfuckers is gonna give us the lowest rate, so we can get a better payment for, you know, our future and pay off this fucking house. And we dabbled in a couple of them. Like we actually called a few like companies, and we started getting like, you know, quotes and stuff like that. And then one day she was like, I think I know a guy. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, yeah, like, my fiance's a twin. So, Monica, who's my fiance, went to Fresno State. Her twin, Sonia, went to Stanislaus. And like you said, just through talking to people, she was like, I think I know a guy, like Sonia knows a guy who does mortgages. And she goes, okay, here he is. Like, he showed me his Instagram page. So that day, I was like, I had all the trust in her. I was like, cool, hit him up. Like, I'm not tripping. Like, let's hit him up. Let's see what we can get. And, if you know him, maybe he'll be able to hook us up. So she hits him up, and like, she sends him a DM on Instagram, and whatever. It was like, hey Andy, I'm so and so, and we're thinking about refinancing, and and so anyway, she sent it that day. I like looked at some of his page, and then I started noticing some of the shit on his page. If you look at his page, it's fucking awesome. Like, that's what drew me in. Like, looking at Andy's page and the team that they've built, and the people that they have around them, and just the environment and positivity. That's what drew me in. I was like, fuck, man, I think that night I might have like sent him a message. Because right away, Andy being Andy, I think he might have like called her or called me, or maybe spoke to both of us that night. And when I talked to him, to me, it was like, we hit it off, because to me, it sounded like he's been my buddy forever. Like, he was talking to me the way that I talk to my friends, and so like, I related to that right away. I can hear by the tone of his voice, I can like see his videos. I already knew who I was talking to. And so for me, like, right away, instantly, we became friends. And he made me feel the same way, and like I said, I started looking through his page, and like, fuck, man, this is fucking motivating. Like, this is inspiring as fuck. Like, I'm over here working. I have been teaching it like now for 2 years, and don't get me wrong, teaching is awesome. I love teaching. I teach 6th grade PE. I've taught 7th grade and 8th grade PE, and I've done it for 2 years. And as a teacher, my philosophy was this: like, okay, my job is to educate young minds, right? These young minds might not be ready for this information that I'm giving them, but if I can just day in and day out teach them the same lessons like that my coaches and my teachers taught me, hopefully when they get older, I've given them like enough tools to like go and be active, and go and be like, find hobbies, and like these little sports that I teach them, hopefully like they attach to one of them, and when they get older, they take that with them. And if I can do that, and even if I think about it like this, like, yearly I come across like hundreds of students. That means that over my career of however long it was going to be, I would come over like thousands of students. If I can make a change in 15 lives, hopefully more than that, but if I can make a change in 15 lives and change the direction of those lives, like, for me, that's a win, right? And so, but still, like, being in that environment, like clocking in for work, I have a whole bunch of fucking hobbies. I love to do way too many things, and that's what Andy's telling me, like, you're too good at too many different things. You got to focus on one thing, right? Because I like to think that I have a lot of talents. I have a lot of hobbies, right? I have a family. I got to spend time with them. I like to play golf. I like to work out. I used to play the guitar, and I'm gonna pick it back up because of this entrepreneurship. I have a lot of different hobbies. I like to be with people. I like to be with friends and family. And and so we talked to Andy that night. And like I said, right away we hit it off, and like, I was talking to him, like, he was calling me carnal, and he was calling me bro, and hermano, and all that stuff, just the same terms that I use with my friends. So instantly it made me feel like he was my buddy. And this is like maybe a month ago. Like, it hasn't been, maybe now 2 months, but it hasn't been long. So one day we come into the office, and we sit, like, of course he wants to meet me, he wants to like meet Monica, and like talk to us in person. So we come to the office, and he starts telling us about numbers, because I'm super calculated. Like, I want to make sure that everything checks off before I make a move. If it doesn't look good, I'm not even gonna go that way. I'm just gonna like, nah, I'm gonna go this way, right? Because everything's calculated for me. I make calculated moves. So that day I had like making sure that I had like done a little bit of research about like some questions to ask, because I had never done a refinance. I had never owned a home. So like, for me, like, I needed to make sure that I wasn't getting screwed over. So I came in with a little bit of prior knowledge. So right away, Andy, like I said, we met, we gave ourselves like a bro hug, like we've known each other forever. And that day, he tells a story about how I explained, we were talking about the process, and Monica didn't understand something. And me being a teacher, like, I'm super like organized. Like, I love to like, have everything down to the T. And like, when I'm teaching something, I need to know exactly what I'm teaching. Otherwise, I'm gonna sound stupid. And so that day, like I already kind of had an understanding of it. So like I just explained to it like how I would to any of my students. So he uses the example in his talks about how that day he saw something in me, like, damn, like here I am, this mortgage professional, and this motherfucker's explaining it better than me, right? And so in doing so, he saw something in me that maybe I knew I had, but I didn't see it myself, right? And so the weeks go by, and like, you know, we're in contact about like the refinance, and of course, like now knowing what I know, he's like getting the loan process started, and so we're waiting and like calling back and hey, what's going on? Like, hey, what do you need? Do you need this paperwork? We need that. So we just had kind of like those interactions, but like I said, I had started following him, and that day that we were there, we started talking about like Grant Cardone. Like he told me about Grant Cardone because I had listened to like the Tony Robbinses and the freaking Ray Dalios and stuff, but I hadn't heard about Grant Cardone. So that day he mentioned Grant Cardone. He was like, yeah, check him out. Like, you know, you think you'll like him? And we were like having this genuine conversation about like, fuck, man, I like work, but like I hate clocking in and being there and trading my time for money. And like, you know, the way that I explain it now, it's like when you're not self-employed, when you work for an employer, I like to call it, you're on the hamster wheel. Every time you go to work and you clock in, whether you clock in or not physically, you're on a hamster wheel. You're trading your time for money. Every time you're working, you're churning, and you receive a check, right? Follow me so far?
Yeah.
You're exchanging your work for money. And when you do that, you rely on that job. Like, you have to go to work. Why? Because if you don't go to work, you can't pay your bills. If you have a family, you can't provide for your family. If you're an individual and you can't go to work, then you can't do the shit you like. Of course, assuming that you're not under the roof of your parents who takes care of us before that. But my point is, whenever you are not self-employed and you're like employed by somebody else, you have to worry about following all the rules and checking all the boxes and looking presentable and being professional. But you have to clock in, right? Whether you do or not, you gotta go exchange your time for money. So the check comes in however often, whether you get paid weekly or bi-weekly or monthly or salary. But you're kind of living check to check, if you think about it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's what, in my definition of like living check to check, even no matter what you do with your money. Maybe you get paid every 2 weeks and you already have enough money in your savings and you go stash it, and like now you're like, but you're still living check to check. Like, that's kind of what that means to me. And so I already had those thoughts in my head. I'm like, fuck, man, like I love being around friends and family. Like, I love being on the golf course and being with my girls and like doing shit. And by having this full-time job, I can't do that. So in my head, I'm like, there's something better for me, right? And just by divine intervention, I meet this guy. And like he said, he introduced me to Grant Cardone. So I start watching the Grant Cardone videos, and like you're saying, on my way to like work, I'm listening, and I'm like becoming inspired. Like, I'm fucking like waking up little by little. And I'm just getting these little bits and pieces. And through Grant Cardone, like you said, I started following Danny Morale and then like just other people, and I'm listening and I'm learning, and I'm like starting to realize like, fuck, like there's something more out there for me, right? We were always taught to be conservative and put our money in the banks.
Oh yes.
And you know, like I'm pretty sure your parents still do the same thing, like save.
It's not the way to do it.
And so now knowing what we know, like we know that's not the way to go, which is why we're doing this shit. And it's because we're on this journey to be greater ourselves, and hopefully along the way bring more people with us, whether it's, you know, virtually or the people who we come across. But anyway, I started diving into these little things, and at that meeting he mentioned GrowthCon, which is Grant Cardone's like big event, and it was gonna be in Vegas. And at the time he was like, oh yeah, I think the tickets are like $500, and I'm like, fuck, $500? Like, to me at the time, I'm like, and this is a few months ago, I'm like, fuck, $500? Like, I don't want to sound like a bitch either, so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Like, or he was like, would you be interested? I was like, yeah, because to me, like, I see him and his team, and like me kind of wanting to be part of it. Like, I'm committed, so I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
I knew it was gonna work.
Yeah, I'm assuming that everybody's going, so I'm like, yeah, if I can just be like around these guys, like maybe I can pick something up. Or I knew nothing about the conference, and so like he said, he mentioned the conference that day. A few weeks went by, I looked into it a little bit and like kind of what it was about and who was going to be there and who was going to be speaking. And he sends us a few messages about like, hey guys, like the tickets are this much, who's in? And then at one point he messaged us like, oh, the tickets are $297. I'm like, fuck, half off? Hell yeah, I'm in, you know? So I like responded on that group chat like, yeah, like I'm in, Andy. Like And then for like a couple of weeks, there wasn't any communication, so I was kind of like assuming that I wasn't gonna go. But like I said, I was still interested in like coming over here and learning, and like just having met him that first time, I wanted to like kind of be around him and the guys. And I had, like I said, I had messaged him on Instagram like, damn man, you motivate me, because being in that position of like being an employee and knowing that you fucking hate working, whether you love it or not. Like I love it. I love teaching. Don't get me wrong. I love teaching and I love teaching students, but at the same time, I'm working. I'm like, fuck, I want to be home with my kids. You know, and then you get home late from work, whether you work, you know, as a teacher, I was lucky enough to work. I still am a teacher. That's the crazy part. But I'm transitioning into this. Whether you work, you know, like me, I was working from 8 to like 2:40. That's not a long schedule, but still, like I would get home, I would work out. Sometimes I wouldn't. Get the girls, make dinner. Like the day goes by too quick. You don't have time to do shit. And so being in that business, like I knew there was more for me. And then like February 21st or February 17th happened. February 17th is my godson's birthday, so we were out in Sacramento having dinner, like at the what's the name of that place? The shrimp, the
Where? Tell me.
in Sacramento.
Oh, the
Crab Shack. Joe's Crab Shack.
Yeah.
So we were at Joe's Crab Shack, and I was just having dinner with my family and my godson, and the phone rings, and it's Andy, and he goes, "Hey, are you ready?" And I'm like, I'm thinking like refi. I'm thinking about like, oh yeah, like are we gonna close or? And he goes, "No, GrowthCon." And I'm like I said, I already had kind of like knowing all this knowledge and like doing the research and getting to know the people who ADA introduced me to. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm in. Yeah, I'm in. So then he goes, okay, cool. This was on February 2017. The event was on February 21st, so like 4 days from that. So this was on a Monday. I think it actually was like it was on a holiday. I can't remember if it was President's Day or one of those like Monday holidays.
Yeah.
So I have Monday off from work, which is why I was out there. So this is on a Monday. The phone rings, I pick up, it's Andy, I say, yeah, I'm in. Like I said, I was doing to about Grant Cardone, I commit and worry about the rest later, right?
Yeah.
Because like we're saving and we're like, you know, we were planning a wedding and I was like learning about investments, so I'm saving. And then to me, I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna go on this trip. I'm feeling guilty about Monica and I because we're saving together. Like all of our money is together, right? Like, so I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna go on this trip. The flight's gonna cost me like $300. The hotel's gonna cost me like $400. I'm gonna be over there. They're gonna wanna like maybe go to bars. I'm gonna spend like this whole trip's possibly gonna cost me like $2,000. Like that's what I'm thinking in my head. Like fucking fuck. But I need to do this. Like this is an opportunity for me. I need to go, right? And just to backtrack a few days or like maybe a week, we had gone to his Driven event in here in Modesto one day. A lot of people might know about the Driven event, and that's something that he put on with his team. But I was there, like, you know, I already had been like calling Andy and like getting to know him a little bit more personal, but I wouldn't consider myself his buddy, like his actual friend yet. So February 17th happened. I get the call at the Crab Shack place, and I commit. And Monica at the time was like at the bathroom, and when she like he had called me when he was at the bathroom, and she went to the Driven event, so she like became inspired herself. Like fuck, babe, like look, like you know, like what's going on, like what do you think, like what would happen if you were able to join the team and all this stuff, and I'm just like yeah,
That's exciting.
yeah. So that day when she came back from the bathroom, I'm like, babe, guess what? She goes, I was like, guess who just called me? She goes, who? I said, Andy. She goes, oh my god, what did he say? And I go, he asked me if I wanted to be part of the team, like joking with her, right?
Yeah.
So like her not knowing, I was like, he wants me to be part of the team, and she goes, oh my god, what did he say? And I was like, he said yeah, like no, what did you say? I was like, I said yeah, and then I was like, nah, I'm just fucking with you. Like he wants to know if I want to go to Vegas with him, like you know, because it's kind of like my icebreaker.
Yeah.
And so like I said, she was super cool, and she was like, well, what did you say? I said, yeah, like I'm gonna get my tickets right now. Like I'm gonna get my tickets. So I went up, called Andy. I'm like, hey, cool, I'm in. When are we flying out? This was on Monday. We were gonna fly out on Friday. I just looked at his booking number, no questions asked. I booked the same flight. So then I started, like I said, guys, we're in a hallway. That's why fucking people they're getting off of work and they're passing by. So random ass people walking by, that's because we're in a hallway up here by the office. But fast forward during that week, I go to work and I'm thinking like, okay, I start doing my research because I'm, like I said, I'm calculated, so I want to know what's happening before it happens. And so to me, I'm like, I look at this, I'm following Grant Cardone, I'm listening to his podcast, listening to about the event and like what, like the checklist to the event if you're coming to do this and making sure that you're prepared for this. And it's a networking event. For those of you guys that don't know, it's just like a growth, it's called Growth Con. So growth conference, right? It's about like growing as an individual, as an entrepreneur and growing your business. At the time, I'm like, fuck, I'm a PE teacher. What am I gonna how am I gonna grow my business, right? And so like that Tuesday, Wednesday, going to work, I'm like, fuck man, like, am I gonna like even get anything out of this? Like, is it gonna be worth it for me? Like, I'm just gonna go over there and spend $1,500 and then just come back and with nothing. And so, Thursday comes and then I have a conversation with Andy. And if you know the way that Andy is, he's busy all the time. I don't know if I've ever called Andy and he's like not been doing something, right? But like it's good because he's busy, he's doing something. In this business, you want to be busy. And so, like I said, I called him hoping that he would answer, like, hey Andy, like, you know, I'm ready. Like, what do you think? Like, what should I bring? I'm fucking packing, like, cause I see them dressing super nice. So I'm fucking packing my best shoes, my best suits. The night before, I'm packing like, you know, my watches, like all this like ties and stuff. Getting ready to like hopefully, you know, like being around the guys, I see them always dressed nice, at least on their Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't want to be dressed like a stupid ass, like, you know, and they're all dressed super nice. So I packed my best clothes, and I call him and I'm like, hey, come on, like what, like, you know, what are you guys bringing because I paid for like the carry-on or like I paid for the luggage because I'm a big dude, so my shoes are fucking big, my jeans are big, like I have big clothes. And so I have like this big maleta, the big suitcase, and I like jam pack it with all my nice shit. And like it's funny because at the Driven event, he tells a story about when he started and like how he was like at the store buying clothes and he was worried about the price and he was like, nah, just his mentor Willie at the time tells him like, nah, fuck that, like just don't worry about it, like don't, like he was thinking about applying for the credit card. The Wednesday before, that was me at fucking like Marshalls and fucking Burlington Coat trying to find pants and trying to find a nice, you know, blazer. And so I pack all that shit in my luggage. And I call him, hey Andy, like, you know, I'm excited, like what kind of, like, what should I pack? Like I already had packed it, but I just wanted to like get an idea. He was like, oh, carnal, just go comfortable, like just dress like, you know, just be comfortable because you're gonna be there all day. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, like again, I guess I can return all this shit.
Yeah. So I'm like, fuck it. Well, at least, like, if anything, I already have this.
Yeah,
no, I already had a lot of like nice clothes, but I had gone to like buy a blazer, like to try to look like professional.
Like, you know,
yeah. And so I open up the fucking suitcase and I start taking some of the shoes out, and like, cause I'm like, I don't want to be like, I want to like plan my outfits, but at the same time, I don't want to have too much shit because then I'm not gonna be able to find anything. And so anyway, I unpack my stuff and I like kind of repack it, and then Friday comes. Friday, I have to go to work, and I know that our flight leaves. I think at the time it was leaving at 7 from Sacramento. We had this event at work that like I had to be committed to, but I have a coworker, Orlando, if you're listening, super cool dude, and he had my back, and I was like, bro, like it was kind of like I think of it like open house kind of thing at school.
Oh, okay.
Like we had one of those kind of open house events, so like parents were gonna come and we were gonna have to like show some of our work. But he had my back. He's like, bro, don't trip. Like, and the way that I am, like, if I gotta do something, I'm gonna do it. And if I get in trouble for it, I mean, it's okay, right? I'd rather ask for forgiveness than for permission. That's just me. But I ended up leaving work earlier than I was supposed to, just so I can get to Riverbank to be at Chenta's house, and then from there we were gonna drive to Sacramento. So that day I pull up, and I like I said, I had followed these guys on Instagram, and so I got to know a little bit of their personality. And so the night before, I was like, went through all their pages just so I can like know or have something to talk to them about, because that's just my personality that's just me being me. But I like kind of did like some research about like who they are and like what they were about, like some of the interests that they have, just so I can have stuff to bring on. Because I'm going on this trip with people who I've never met before, and I don't want to be that fucking awkward dude that's just like sitting in the corner, right? So I want to have shit to talk about just because that's my personality. So I pull up to Chente's house and I'm like, have my little, my little suitcase and my laptop bag and all the stuff that I brought with me on the trip. And, the first time I meet Chente, he's like, if you know Chente, he's fucking super rock. He looks like a little version of The Rock.
Oh, yeah.
Chente, if you're watching this, I'm calling you out. But he's super fit, and so he's like the buff guy of the group, and he comes out, and like I said, when I meet him, like to me, he's like, oh, carnal, like, he starts taking some of the stuff out of his trunk so I can put my bag, and we kind of hit it off too, like we started talking to each other like we've known each other forever, and I kind of knew that that's how it was going to go anyway, because like I said, I had been following, go ahead, man, you're good, go ahead, you're good. I had been following him on Instagram. And so right away I get in the front seat of his caddy, and we're driving to pick up Andy and Betcha, and we're driving over to Betcha's house, and like I said, I kind of already know of these guys, but I don't know them personally, and so not even Andy, like I don't actually know Andy personally yet at this time. Like I said, this was like a month ago, and we go pick them up, we get in the car, and we drive to the airport. And that's where we get into the story of like all this like transformation of the mindset, like you were talking about when you were explaining, how you read and how you all do this stuff. This stuff started happening to me, and I started to realize through the conversation that we were having, like Andy always tells me like, because one of the things I told him was like, I'm a PE teacher, and this thing is all about networking. Like, what am I gonna like tell people? Like, hey, I'm a PE teacher, and I can like help your kid. Like, He was like, like if you're in your head, you're already a mortgage broker. Like, present yourself as a mortgage broker, and you start meeting people. So he's just kind of like changing my mindset. Like I'm sure you've experienced that too. Mm-hmm. And so so then I'm on this, like I'm in the car on the way to Sacramento with a new group of people who I've never met. Just try not to fuck up, because I don't want to say something stupid and then they're like, no, this guy's like he doesn't fit in with us, right? And so trying to say the right things, trying to conversate, and that's something that I'm good at, is adapting to conversations and like getting the vibe about how people talk and like adapting to that. And so we get to the airport, our flight's delayed. So then it's like, okay, we rushed over here for like, Chente was like on the freeway driving like freaking 100 miles per hour trying to get us to the airport. We get there and it's like, your flight's delayed, So anyway, I know that I'm talking at this point too much, but let me just try to get to my point. Is I go on this trip, which at the beginning I didn't even know what I was going on it for. We get there, we get to the airport, we go check in. On our way from the airport to the hotel is where it like kind of starts for me. We are driven by this Cuban guy who we start talking to, and like I said, Andy's sitting in the front seat, so naturally he's conversating, and in the back we're conversating with them. And we come to and over that period of time, we had like several different Uber drivers who come from different backgrounds. They're diverse, right? We had, like I said, he was Cuban. We had another Cuban. We had a lady from Nigeria. We had a lady from like Puerto Rico or something like that. Just like diverse people that come, like immigrants that come from different countries. And through those conversations, we talked about how like back in the day, it was different. Like we talked about earlier, is like growing up, you can be out in the neighborhood and like be running around, and your neighbors are like, what? Like they're kind of taking, like, who lives everywhere in your neighborhood, and everybody's watching over each other. Yeah. Right. And like I came to the conclusion that like these days, like the American way is different. Like we're all about like being to ourselves. Like shut up. Like don't look at anybody else. Shut up and do your thing. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Just focus on you. But like you talked about, that's not how it should be. Like we should not be afraid to talk to people. And if there's anything that I learned on this trip, like I said, I could talk for hours about just the different experiences that I went through. But one of the funny ones is that when I first got there, I had like a high level seat. Like we were sitting at the top, like at the very top, like the highest seat possible. That's where I was sitting with Veche and Chente. And I'm like, damn, like I want to be, like I was already learning from Andy, and I'm like, I want to be down there, close to the people. So I'm like, okay, I have Andy's ticket on my phone. For all they know, I'm Andy Zamora. I'm gonna go and be like, look, this is my seat. This is section 121, and I already have noticed that there's a lot of empty seats. So I moved down, and from Friday on, I'm sitting in the fucking $5,000 seats, right? Remember that my ticket was like $5,000 or $500, and I'm one row away from the floor seats, which were 20 grand. So I'm in a different ballpark.
Oh, and they let you be there?
Well, they didn't know. They didn't know that I
No,
was
and
just,
no one claimed their seat?
no. And you know, the crazy thing is that I wasn't even worried about it because in my mind, I'm like, they already got their money. I'm just here to learn. Like, you know, they're not worried about. It wasn't like a high security thing. At least my point of view.
Oh, and Andy was down there too?
Yeah, Andy was like, yeah. So I actually, Andy was sitting like in the midsection. I ended up like getting a better seat than Andy, and like, you know, we were texting about it and stuff. And like through this trip, we got to like, they got to know me, we got to know each other, and they got to know my personality and like, you know, just a little bit of my background and who I am. And so yeah, like I said, I'm in a different ballpark because now like fucking Magic Johnson is like right there, right? Like I can see him like, you know, whatever it is, 30 feet away. And being in that seat, Friday, I still had a little bit of like doubts as to like, what am I doing here? Like starting to figure it out. Being around the team and all the guys that came and Mari, I started having these conversations with them about like, you know, just making this transition that like some of them like Chete and Beche have just recently left their jobs where they were working and now they're seeing success. So I'm like, fuck, like thinking about all these things. Friday, I meet like a couple people, and because like I listened to the podcast that said networking, like just make sure you talk to people because that's where you get the most out of it.
Yes.
And so Saturday, I go back to the same seat. I'm sitting next to this 16-year-old kid, Roy, if you're watching. And I kind of like start seeing like, I'm like, damn, this fucking kid is 16. He's at this event. Like here I am, a fucking 26-year-old, like barely figuring shit out. And this kid already has the mental capacity to want to better himself. Like, so I build a rapport with him, and we actually have a meeting with him hopefully today soon. He's supposed to call me at 8 o'clock because I really like attached to that. I'm like, here's a 16-year-old kid at this fucking growth conference. Like I told him like through a lot of the conversation that we had just by sitting next to each other, because like I said, I wasn't even supposed to be there. And I'm a firm believer in that everything happens for a reason. And so me being there, like, you know, we ended up being like, hey, like I came back the next day and I was like, oh, what did I miss? Because, you know, of course, like we were out, we stayed up late just conversating, and then we, just as entrepreneur, like you were saying, work 20 hours, sleep 4. So that was kind of the same thing we were doing over there. It's like going to sleep late, waking up super early, like, you know, because there were so many of us in the hotel, we all had to get ready. But pulling up a little bit late, I already had a relationship with this, you know, 16-year-old kid who I sat there with the day before. So seeing him and some of his business ventures, and he was like into marketing and wanting to better himself and going about it. And so like I said, Saturday was like probably the changing point for me, because Friday was like, Saturday, like I started to like have these thoughts in my head. And Saturday at lunch, we all went to lunch together. We went to this pizza place, and I had a conversation with Mari, Andy's sister. And she was like a former teacher. She left her career to come and help Andy. So like we had a lot of similarities in our story. And I asked Mari, like, hey Mari, like what do you think? And I was like, you know, just like give me some advice. And she was like, well, what is your gut telling you? Because I'm thinking about leaving my job, like mid-year, like you did. Like I'm thinking about fucking pulling up to Black Bear Diner and giving up my note.
Like, bye.
And so, yeah, we had a conversation, and she goes, whatever, like, your gut is telling you, and what is it telling you? And I'm like, well, my fucking gut's telling me to leave. Like, I'm fucking, like, my gut's telling me to fucking leave. Like, so that day, I made up my mind that the Monday that I came back, I was like, gonna call in sick. I was gonna show up to work, I was gonna shake everybody's hand, and I was just gonna bounce. Like, I'm an at-will employee, which means that I'm not under contract. Technically, I can leave if I want. So that day, we had that. I made that up in my mind. Like I said, the switch flipped, and I was like, just like being in that seat, and I can talk to you about this, but I can't give you the experience and the vibe that I had sitting in that chair. And so, you know, that night, we go back to the hotel room, and we have like this super like intense emotional conversation, and I'm fucking emotional. Like I like cried multiple times at that event just because of like happiness and like realization and like thinking about all the people that I can help.
You find your true purpose.
Yeah.
Like you could do way more than just a PE teacher, because you love being a PE teacher. I know you do.
Yeah.
But then you're like, man, I could help more people now.
Yeah. And so like I said, I started thinking about all the people that I can help, and like just being happy. And Saturday, like I made up my mind that I was quitting, and I was gonna come and help these guys. Like because like to me, like I was already part of the team at that point, because I'm with the guys. Like Andy sees this in me. He wants me to work for him. Like, to me, like, I'm already part of the team. And so Saturday, I made up my mind that I was leaving, and we had this intense conversation with them and Mary, who was at the there. I meet another guy, Tocayo Alex, who, like I said, everybody that I was meeting was like, I knew them forever. Why? Because everybody's on this same like path. Everybody's on this path to better themselves, and everybody has this in common where they just want to get better and compete and be the best. And at my current job, like, I don't get that. Like, you know how it goes when you work with people, like, everybody's negative, like, you know, they put that,
it's just another day and they're like on autopilot.
they put that negative vibe off on you, and then it just like, whatever. So being in this environment was completely different for me. So Saturday, you know, I was actually advised by Andy, who was like he it excites him, like it excites him to see like Betcha and Chente doing what they're doing, and Erwin and Edgar and Felix and all these guys. But I can tell that it excites him, like me pumping him up and being like, fuck no, I'm leaving, like, you know, he gets excited.
It is exciting.
Yeah, he advised me to just like wait, like pump the brakes. Let's find you some units first, so you can use your 2-year work history, so you can apply for your loan. Because I'm not on the mortgage loan. I was lucky enough, like I said, dumb luck. Monica was on the loan by herself, so now I have the freedom to go and apply for my own loan, which is what we're in the process of doing. But I made up my mind that I wasn't gonna leave yet. I was gonna wait until I purchased some apartments. And so that goes Saturday. Saturday night, I had this crazy experience because I'll just tell a story real quick. We had finished watching. There was a big fight. That was the same night that Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fought. So that night, after the fight was over, the guys some of the guys wanted to go out. Some of the guys, like Andy and these guys, wanted to just go eat and then come back. I'm in the middle of both. I'm like, fuck, I want to be with these guys, but I also want to like go and have a drink or go hang out. But at the same time, I'm like, this is a business trip. Like, I'm not here to party. Like, I'm here to learn and get better. So that night, for whatever reason, like I said, I'm super, like, I try to match. I mean, sometimes I don't, but I try to have some sort of like fashion sense. And so that night, for whatever reason, and this goes back to my point of like everything happens for a reason. I wanted to look my best self. For whatever reason it was, like I wanted to put my best pants, my best shirt, my best tie, my best, you know. And I had like the guys were getting ready, and like I said, there's only one bathroom, and of course like we're cool, we don't care, we're guys, we take off our shirts, and like I was ironing for them, but I get my outfit, and when I put it on, I don't like it. And the guys are like, come on, like, we're leaving already. And I'm like, you guys go, don't worry, like, I'll be all right, I'll catch up to you guys. So then I go and get like another pair of pants and shirt and tie, and I start ironing it again, and I get ready. And like, for some reason, something's telling me, like, you gotta look your best self, right? So I leave the hotel room finally with my new outfit on, and I'm like, fuck, I forgot my watch, I forgot my tie clip. So I go back to the hotel room, I get my stuff. And finally, when I do make it down there to the lobby where they were like already all eating. So I just kind of say what's up, and I go to the line. Like I had talked to them on the phone, like, oh, where are you guys? We're at this Italian place. So I walk up to the Italian place, and I'm standing there like at 1 in the morning, like thinking about what I want to eat. And there's this lady standing behind me. And like I said, through the conference, being there Friday, Saturday, like I just was like just talking to people. Like stop being so fucking like to yourself and like talk to people.
Yeah.
So that night, I'm like, there's this lady, like random looking lady, like just regular lady that was standing behind me. And I'm like, I just simply turn around and I'm like, hey, what do you think? Like, what looks good to you? And I kind of already knew, like in my mind, what I wanted, but I just wanted like some confirmation from somebody else. So she was like, oh, well, the fettuccine Alfredo looks good. And I'm like, fuck, you're right. Like, you know what? Like, give me fettuccine, and I'm gonna get her whatever she wants, right? Because I'm starting to get them, like, I'm starting to pick up their habits of like, fuck it, like, don't even worry about the money. Like, the money is, it's
it's true.
It's just fuck it, like, don't worry.
I'm not even making money right now.
So I'm like, fuck it, just like, let me get this lady what she wants. And then her name, so I introduced, like, I tell her what I'm doing there, and by then I already had all this energy, like. The way that I was talking to people and like the way that I was like motivated, like I was putting out this energy when I was talking to people. So when I would talk to people, they're like, you know, they can feel that. And her name is Stacy. So at the time, Stacy was like, you know, I can tell when I was talking to her, she was like intrigued, right?
Oh my god.
And then, so I finally shut up, and I'm like, you know, like, oh, like she was like, oh, what are you doing here? And I tell her, that's why I'm like telling her about the conference and all that stuff. And I was like, well, what about you? She was like, oh, well, I'm here for my son's race. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I'm thinking like motocross or like something. Like, I was like, what is he like? What like he races for what? She goes, NASCAR. I'm like, oh shit, like NASCAR's a pretty big deal.
Oh.
And then I was like, really? Like, what's his name? She goes, Jaden. And I was like, oh wow. She goes, I was like, how old is he? She goes, he's 14. I'm like, oh wow. And I'm like, and she goes, yeah, he actually just broke the record for the youngest NASCAR driver in the history of NASCAR. And I'm like, me being me, I'm like, I just like do a quick Google, and I'm like, oh shit, she's right. So the moral of the story is I have this like, if I would have never turned around and talked to this lady,
You
like
would never know.
I would have never like came. And so of course I'm a sports guy. That shit like it excites me, and I'm like, oh my god. We start talking. I start telling about my story, about who I'm with, and she's like, so she had more for us. She was like, I want to actually like come over and talk to your friends.
Oh.
So she came over, and like I said, it was like, you know, me, Vecha, Chente, my tokai Alex, and a girl named Mary from Illinois. We were all sitting at the table that night. She came over and she like sat down, and like the guys were kind of just like who's this random chick, right? And I'm all excited, like I already like I have a secret to tell them, like I'm excited like fun, like. And then she starts talking to them, like she was like, oh, so I met Alex, and he's telling me like what you're doing. It turns out that this lady is not only the mother of a 14-year-old NASCAR driver who just became the youngest, she's also like a fucking business mogul who's like worth millions of dollars.
Oh
right?
my god.
I know. So that night, she sat, I fucking, like I said, I had the little fettuccine Alfredo in front of me, and I had ordered hers. But I was so fucking excited to listen to her talk that I didn't even need it. Like, I was there listening to her for like 40, like she was just dropping knowledge on us.
Wow.
For like 45 minutes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so she talked to us about like her story, like how she came up, like her business ventures was like, you know, she started with like RV parking lots, and she does commercial real estate, and like genuinely in her conversation she was like, oh, I'm only worth like 40 million, and we're like, like fuck, you know, like oh, like look at this humble ass lady, like only worth 40 million, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, and so her name is Stacy Walbridge. I've actually been in contact with her. But the moral of my that story and this whole conference thing is like you said, always talk to people. Like that's why I think what sets you apart from a lot of other women and attractive women is that most women are just like stuck
About
up.
themselves.
Yeah, like stuck
Selfish.
up, right? Even if you approach them just like in a genuine fashion, just to conversate, like in their minds, they're like, they already have these mental blocks up, like, no, like, you know, like he's trying to hit on me, no. And so your personality is different. Like you're outgoing, you talk to people, and like you say, you walk in Best Buy and you talk to fucking everybody.
Everybody
yeah.
knows.
And so talk to people. Don't be afraid to conversate, because you never know what opportunity you're gonna get in doing so. And so that's just one of the stories. You know, to finish up Sunday, like I woke up that night. We went to go work out, and now I'm starting to think like they're telling me all these things like we gotta get you in shape, like we gotta like. And I'm not like super fat, but I'm like okay, like I already work out a little bit, but yeah, I get it. Like
Get discipline, you know.
Yeah,
that discipline.
exactly.
That's why.
And so now there's a change in the mindset happening in my head.
Ooh.
And that Sunday morning, like I wake up after a workout, and I'm in the bathroom showering, and I'm just fucking crying, like. You know, I hate to admit it, but I'm just like, I don't even know why. Like, I'm just fucking crying. Like, and to me, like, I'm thinking about my godson. I'm thinking about my family, my sisters, my brothers, my mom, my dad, like all these people that I can help. And like, just kind of like, the way that I can explain it, the way that I can best explain it is just like that day I experienced, like, I had a funeral for my old self. Like I told myself, like that's the best way I can explain it. And like I was thinking about like all these things in my head, like why the fuck am I crying? Like why is this happening to me? But to me, it's just like I had a funeral for my old self. Like I told myself that I'm never gonna go back to thinking the way that I used to think, and like being the way that I used to be. And from that point forward, when I came out, like even when I came out, like some of the guys were still sleeping, but I was just fucking sitting there like silent. Like I'm not an out loud crier. I'm just like sitting there silently, like crying to myself, but I'm just like contemplating all these things, like what the fuck is happening to me, like so that was Sunday. You know, we go back to the conference that day, and we finish up the conference. Some of the guys leave early because they got to drive back. Andy's got to go back to LA. Like I'm just kind of like on my own at that point with some of the other people that were left that I had met, but I want to make sure that I stay there. And like I said, I took full advantage because I was like, at that point, I was like in the VIP seats. Like, I was down there with my camera when Kevin Hart came on, and like, you know, I was in the $20,000 seats. But at that point, I already had gotten enough out of the conference. Like, for me, it was worth fucking 20 grand. Like, I was down there in 20 grand seats. I'm like, who do I owe these 19 grand to? Because this shit was like totally worth it. And so coming back from the conference, I go back to work, right? Because to me, I'm like, I'm gonna get back on Monday, and I'm already gonna quit. But I come back to work, and that week was probably like the hardest week for me. It was the hardest and the easiest week for me because it was hard knowing now that I have this other business venture that I can be at, but I have to be here, right? It was easy because my brain had been rewired. Like, I am not having the same thoughts that I used to have before. Like, I've always, like, our schools, it's a challenging school. We have challenging students, a lot of behavior problems, not a lot of structure coming from our administration. And I had always known that there was something, but I could never point the finger at what it was. When I came back from the conference, I don't know what happened, but my brain was just like, I started to figure out everything. Like, I started like to realize like why everything was happening. And like I said, when I came back, that was my best week of teaching that I've ever had. Because I was like telling these stories to my kids, like my students, and I was like talking to them about like how I met that lady and like having like just don't be afraid.
You found more purpose in life than just, you know.
Like, just fucking have courage and don't be afraid to talk to people.
It's crazy, huh? Like, yeah, I know how you.
And so yeah, like that was, you know, less than 3 weeks ago, and like now being on like the team and being around the guys and all this, like I said, everything happens for a reason. And so at the time I was gonna quit. And I was gonna just fuck it, like fuck my job. I'm gonna go make money over here anyway. Now this whole coronavirus quarantine thing happens. For me, it's a blessing in disguise.
You're like, oh my God, Jesus, you're just trying to bless me even more. Huh?
Yes.
I see it the same way. I'm like, wow, like he just wants us to move up.
Yeah, and so that's why, like, to me, this shit is all crazy because now I have the opportunity to be at home with my daughters and like wake up in the morning with them and like, you know, work out, feed them, be productive from home, start looking for clients, and like, you know, I like to think, like, I've been telling this story recently. If anybody knows who Conor McGregor is, he's a UFC fighter, and like he was young, and he pretty much manifested himself. Like, he knew he was good and he was gonna be great, and he fucking made it happen. And for me, I'm in the same boat. Like, I already know. Like, it's funny because the guys, and hopefully they listen to this, or if they don't, it's cool, but the guys like are all about production. Some of them are about production, and producing, and they're producing, and I love it, and I love to be around the competition. And it's funny because they talk shit because I'm still like transitioning. Like in my head, like I'm still officially a teacher slash, you know, loan originator, but technically I can't say that yet because I don't have my license. So, you know, I'm already in the works of like finishing my license, working alongside Andy. Yesterday, we are gonna hopefully open my first escrow. So like the ball's moving. Meeting people like you, being around you, and seeing you and all the talent that you have and all the potential that you have, and all like we're only going up. And like that's why I love doing these kinds of things.
You know how you said that you knew you manifested and that you knew you were gonna move up?
Yeah.
I used to tell my ex-boyfriend that I'm like, I know I'm gonna do amazing things. I already know. Like right now I'm not making much money and I don't care. Like I don't care being broke, but I do care being poor. There's two different things.
Yeah.
Because I know
broke is temporary.
Yes, I know I'm gonna do so much. Like I already knew. Like I know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do so much. Like I'm that motivated. Like I'm gonna make a difference. I already know. Like I knew from months ago. I just didn't know how to go about it. And like it's amazing feeling when you finally realize like, okay, it clicked. Like it clicked to me 3 weeks ago too.
Yeah.
3 weeks. You know what? The driven.
Because of this fucking handicap.
The driven event. Yes.
Yeah.
I go to that driven event and then it clicked. I was like, oh shoot, like I'm selfish. Like I wrote like so many notes down. I'm like things I had to change, and I circled the 3 big ones. Like okay, I'm like stop procrastinating, stop being freaking selfish, and then work every single day, no freaking weekends off.
And tell us a little bit about what you've accomplished since then.
Okay, so since that driven event, This
is like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I I'm starting on my 4th week, but I have 3 weeks only. I was able to grow my Instagram tremendously by 3,000 more profile visits. So I'm almost at 5,000 profile visits every 7 days, and it keeps growing crazy. Like yesterday I got 300 followers more, just like on one day. Like I keep growing. Like the day before that was 200 followers, just 300 followers, like more, like in one day. Not even that's not even the thing. Like hundreds of messages about like how much I motivate not just women, men.
Yeah.
Like very respectful messages. Like I love them. I love messaging back. I love the messages. Working on finally my online training focus. Like I don't want to talk about everything I'm working on, and just because I don't like to talk about things, I just want to make it happen. But then now I have a business plan with dates and everything. I have a personal plan which I've never had with dates and everything, because now I realize like everything has to be planned out. Like so much. I'm reading now. I'd never read before.
Yeah.
I didn't like reading.
Yeah.
I didn't like talking to people. I didn't like to talk on an iPad or on my IG stories. I didn't do photo shoots. I would always tell people like, "Oh, I'm not ready."
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing this right now.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
like before that event, there's no way I was like, oh, that's weird. Like I'm scared.
I'm in the same boat because, like I said, since having the ability to be around these guys, like so much has changed for me too. Like I always, like I said, I've always been a bigger guy, and so I've always worn like 38 pants or an extra large shirt, and like just being around these guys, like. I mean, I've done it in the past before. Like, I've always been about fitness myself, so I've always had the ability to take control of my diet, because that's really what it is. And you're a personal trainer. Take control of your diet, but what does that take? That takes discipline. So in my head, I've always gotten in pretty good shape, but I've never been like, I've never reached my full potential as far as like physique, right? And so with just these 3 weeks, like I've already made up my mind that it's happening, and it is happening, because like now. I'm like these pairs of jeans that I'm wearing, like I've never worn pairs of 36s before, because I've always been like chubby, right? Or like thicker, or whatever you want to call it. But like these pairs of jeans, like I've already like I haven't worn size 36s since I was like in fucking middle school maybe.
Oh man.
And so now I'm finding like that I wanna like my shirts are fitting me too big. Like now I want them to fit like tighter.
Now you're like, okay,
yeah.
I'm confident.
Yes.
I get you. I lost like 9 pounds in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I started getting like way like shredded more and still build, and it's crazy. All because I changed my mindset and I stopped focusing on my appearance.
Yeah. So like I said, once the mindset changes, guys, everything changes, because like I said, February 16th, which was the day before Andy called me, I was at 260 pounds. And right now I'm like at 239 pounds.
Ooh, wow!
So, so just in this short amount of being around this fucking environment and positivity, like I've already taken control, and it's right here, like you said before. It's right here. Once you control the mind, like everything follows. Yep. And like you said, I've been way more productive. I've been listening to more podcasts. I've been reading more books. I've been like that event was so life changing for me that I've committed to it for fucking ever. And so like right now there were supposed to be another one in April, but because of all this stuff happening, like it got postponed to July. So now I'm coming, and I'm bringing Monica with me. So like I'm investing in myself.
I'm going to.
And we're going to Miami, baby.
Hell yeah.
So
there's 2 of them actually in July.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to both. But my point is like I'm not even tripping anymore. Like before, like I just recently bought a truck.
Those good things, right?
I recently bought a truck, and like to me it was like we weren't able to afford it. The payment was too high, and like the payment was $700 right on top of our mortgage, and I'm already thinking about buying another one, right? And I like I said, it's fucking crazy, because like I already, like I said, my mindset is different. Like I said before, some of the I'm more focused on getting my license, and I consider myself a pretty smart dude, and I've always been able to apply. I've taken really high risk tests before at Fresno State, like super hard tests. So for me, I can do this. The test, as soon as I walk in the test, I already know I'm gonna pass it. And I'm not only thinking about getting deals, I'm thinking about opening my own office already.
That's amazing.
You know what I'm saying?
You're like, I know.
Yeah, like,
because you just know,
Yeah, I know.
I know. Like,
yeah.
it's crazy when you know.
You just gotta believe in yourself.
Yeah, that's the only thing that people lack is we all lack, like not being able to believe in ourselves because of who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Because we're so used to our parents telling us like, oh, no, like to be more realistic. Like there's no way. Or you should just get like an easy 2-year job. I say go to MJC and like study something for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stop working as a waitress. Like it always brought me. They never knew that, but they were bringing me down.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I
and
can't.
You know what the crazy part is too is like I said, when I came back from that event, I had all this new energy, and I came back with all this like new ideas and new inspiration, and I started talking to my family, and like I kind of like Andy's doing, he's kind of just trying to enlighten people, and like even within my own family, like there's people that are like, the fuck are you thinking? You're crazy. You're high right now. Like you're on an emotional high, and it's like. My point is, there's always going to be people who are like, they're looking out for you, but at the same time, they're
bringing you down.
They're bringing you down.
I have a lot of people. Like
and I've learned so much about like the people who you surround yourself with, and like just being around Andy and being around like looking at Albert stuff and looking at Willie stuff and looking at Grant Cardone's and the Patrick McDavids and the Danny Morales, and like they all talk about the same things, right? And that's just like being in charge of yourself, surrounding yourself by like-minded people, and I'm doing the same thing with my friends. Like my group of friends that I grew up with, like that I talk about, they're starting to see the change in me, and like I see like a lot of similarities that Andy has. I see them in me, and so I've always been a leader. I already know that I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna open up my office and I'm gonna get my team and we're gonna take over Merced. Like I already know what's happening.
Yes, there you go.
I'm already thinking about like names and locations and like and I haven't even made my fucking first deal. Like that's the crazy part is I just know it's gonna happen.
I'm motivated, but yeah.
And so that's all what this is about, guys. Like we're at the end of the day, we're trying to grow ourselves. We're trying to grow our businesses, and hopefully through this conversation, you guys get to know a little bit about us and our personalities. And you're a baller, like I said. Your followers are through the roof, and it's not even about followers. It's just about like
how many people you actually touch from those followers.
Yes, and potential clients.
And not just that. It's okay now. I'm all about like how many, not even clients, how to train my clients, but as trainers, so they could. So I have 80, right? Let's say I have 80 something. Those 80 something are now gonna have 80 something, with them.
Yeah.
And 80 something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now that's my goal now, because now I want them to be a leader for a bunch of other people,
yeah.
And then so that's where I'm at right now.
That's where I'm at too, because
you know what I mean? Like, how many more people we can empower? I can't do it all by myself. So now, like, that's why I have this empowering group. I want to make sure they keep it going.
Yeah, and I'm coming across the same thing because like through my Instagram now, I'm looking at myself as I'm my own employer. Like I'm self-employed, right? So I'm advertising myself. So if you look at my Instagram. If you do follow me, if you look at my content, like I'm just being myself. I'm just showing you shit.
Oh man, he's very creative. You guys need to check him out. Alex_home loans. Yeah. Super creative. I'm learning from him some stuff.
And so yeah, like if you look at my page, it's just regular stuff. It's stuff that I do every day. Like it's just my regular life. I'm not like showing off or like no. I'm just showing people who I am, and hopefully through that they get to know my personality, and then. Because this is what this whole business is. Like I said, I'm going to be a mortgage broker, and like for those of you guys that don't know, we're just in charge of originating loans. Like we're going to be, there's three steps to the loan process. Whenever you go buy a house or get refinanced, one is the loan originator, aka mortgage broker. They're in charge of like taking in all your income, all your debt, checking your credit report, making sure that you can handle a big loan, because it's not something small. It's not like going to buy a pair of shoes. You're making hundreds of $1,000s purchase, so you want to make sure that the person can handle it. And then after the mortgage broker, it goes to the processor, who pretty much like double checks all the work of the mortgage broker. They're making sure that you checked all the right boxes. If there's any conditions, they fix them. If the client needs something, they do this or they fix that. And then after the processor, it goes to the underwriter. The underwriter is the person that calls you and says, "Hey, Cecilia, we're ready for you to come and sign your documents." The underwriter works for the bank. Once you sign documents, you go with the title company, and it goes from there. But the point is, like, as a loan originator, we're gonna have these just genuine conversations. Like, I'm gonna get to just talk to people and be out doing what I like to do, which is playing golf and hopefully meeting clients and like helping people out, educating. It's the same thing like you said. Like, you want to empower your women to be their best versions of themselves. I want to empower my clients to take control of their money and like, hey, like, instead of working all your life for 30 years and retiring when you're 55 and old and your knees hurt, like, let's live like that right now, you know? And
True.
so, yeah, so like I said, I'm just taking advantage of this time to put out, hopefully what I'm thinking is good content on my page, and like, you know, hopefully like people who follow me. I recently just started posting up, like I posted a meal one the other day.
I love that. Copy him.
And so, yeah, just like the cool little stuff like that, like motivating people on because right now people have to be at home. People don't have a choice but to be at home because we have to stay home, right? So if we're at home, why not take advantage of the fact that people are going to be on their phones scrolling through Instagram? Hopefully they come across my account and they become inspired, because as many of you know, recently there's been like the 10 push-up challenge, right? And like I was tagged in mine, and I was tagged in one, so I did my 10 push-ups and tagged my people, but it was just so awesome to see like where it went, because that person, like you were saying, that person tags 5 people, those 5 people tag another 5 people, and in my opinion, I'm always going to be a teacher, right? But I'm no longer teaching at a school. I'm teaching about life. And I have the same outlook that I did as the same philosophy that I had as a teacher, like in a school. And that is, if I can just help, like, let's just say we're talking about numbers. If you have 100 people who are following you, and out of those 100 people, 50 of them are just going to scroll through your stuff, that's okay. Another 25 are actually going to like engage with your content. But the other 25%, or maybe even 10 of them, actually like are doing something because of the stuff that you're putting out, like that's a fucking awesome feeling. And that's the feeling that you get as a personal trainer whenever you see your girls and your women like out there doing it and fucking getting after it and getting that's the same thing I get. So that's why I try to cover all bases when it comes to content. I like to play golf, I like to sing, I like to cook, I like to be with my girls, I like to work out and now get in shape. So hopefully it's motivating. And like I said, one of the analogies that I have is like, I want to be a tornado. And you want to move with so much force that people around you don't have a choice but to get drawn in, you know? And hopefully, like I said, if we can influence and make people get active and want to do better for themselves, then I think, you know, for me, it's a win in my books. Originally, we planned to talk for like 30 minutes. I don't even know how long it's been, but I'm assuming it's been more than like 2 hours. But shit, man, like if your people or my people have listened to it this far, like, you know, thank you guys, because ultimately they're going to be the people who like are around us and are helping us out, and hopefully in return, I know I'm going to help you with this podcast, and hopefully they start checking it out, and like we're going to get some. And this is not going to be your permanent setup, because like we said,
this is our first one, okay?
We're like in the middle of the hallway at a big office, but you know, hopefully pretty soon we're gonna get you like set up in a nice spot. We're gonna get microphones and headphones and
everything,
and
whatever we need.
And so this thing will, for now, it'll be on Ceci's page. Whenever she releases it, I'll probably put it up on my page. You can access it on YouTube. We're gonna upload it on Spotify and iTunes and all that good stuff. So make sure you guys check out her work, because she's awesome and she's gonna blow up. And if you're interested, make sure you check out some of my work, because I'm on the same boat. Like we're headed in the same direction, and hopefully one day, you know, 25, 30 years from now, we think back about this conversation that we had today, and we're like, fuck, man, look at how young we were, and look at where we are at now, and just reminisce on the times of us coming up, because we're writing our own book. You know, like you know, right now we're like in the first chapters, but even though we've already had a lot of experiences, like in reality, we have a long way to go, and hopefully it's a good book and we make something out of it. And like I said, guys, just make sure that you follow her work, because she's a savage. And I see her, like I've known her for a few weeks, and she's got energy for days. And I'm a parent, and I have to keep up with my daughter, and she's got a lot of energy. So making sure that, you know, interact with us. If you have questions, hit up Ceci.
Or hit him up, or whatever you guys
hit us up. We're surrounded by a lot of good people that can help out, whether it comes to fitness or financing or mortgages or real estate, anything like that. We can always help out, and hopefully you guys got something out of this. It was awesome talking to you, and thank you for having me on. And I look forward to
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
It won't be the last.
I look forward to the future with working with you and working alongside you,
Hell yeah.
and hopefully growing together.
Okay, well, thank you all for watching. We'll be posting this tonight.
Yeah, it's going up tonight. Yeah,
Tonight. It has to go up tonight. There's no way we can wait.
We're going back to the office and uploading this shit.
Let's go right now because
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and we'll hopefully do this again soon.
hell yeah.